Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The shared trauma resulting from an incident of rape most time leaves a lifelong psychological mark on the victim. According to available study, this incident begins to define how and to what extent the sufferer relates with society around her or him. The subject of the psychological state of both the offender and the victim is what will occupy us in the next few minutes. So joining us to provide more perspective on this is Neuro-Psychiatrist and Doctor of Clinical Psychology, Dr. Maymunah Kadiri. Welcome to the morning show.
Thank you so much for joining us.
The sufferer and the offender. What goes on psychologically?
In the mind of
on the mind of the sufferer and the offender. Now, because these people have been thrust into the public limelight, they're constantly in the news every day.
The thing about this is that when I read when people say how it took so long and that person is eventually coming out, let's not forget that person experienced a loss. And when you experience a loss, there's a science behind how you can come back, how you can, begin to live a normal, healthy life. If you are able to go through the stages of grief. So it's not only when somebody dies, that person might have been dead internally, but it's just physical that people are seeing. So when that person experiences loss, there's that issue of denial and shock. So there's denial, like, look, it didn't happen, or the person goes into a shock state. And then if they're able to leave that state, they go into the anger phase. Why should it be me? Why does it have to happen to me? And all that. They get angry. Some of them, you may start seeing children throwing tantrums, or maybe they are angry with the parents or angry with one uncle or somebody in the house. If the parents are not really aware, that may be an issue. The next phase to it is bargaining. Bargaining with the fact that I don't even know what has happened to me. I'm too young to experience this. Why didn't it happen to somebody? The mind goes on and on and on, and then you go to the depression phase. It may not really go into full clinical depression, but they'll be sad before they finally come to that phase of acceptance. So we have 5 stages: denial, shock, anger, bargain, depression, and acceptance. So coming out to talk about rape at the end of the day, that this individual has no expiring date. Your acceptance may take up to 20, 30 years before you realize that, look, I need to lead a voice. I need to say this. It is damaging. I'm dying inside, and nobody really knows exactly how I feel. So people coming out now to talk, maybe one person always will be the voice of those other people to lay that template and say, look, this is what is happening to me, or this is what has happened to me, and others now identify and say, look, the Me Too movement now comes up. So,
but I am seeing a trend of a bandwagon effect, and a lot of people are saying, in a bandwagon effect, there are falsehoods.
Of course, always, anywhere in the world.
There are falsehoods too. So how can we properly ascertain the falsehoods in it? Because now it's like everybody has a story. My pastor raped me at some point in time. Even I was reading a case yesterday. Somebody said it was this was even man to man. Now it was even like something like an homosexual act.
Which happens, sodomization.
So it was like sodomization. So the bandwagon effect. How do you stem the tide of this? Because I just remember when suicide started.
Exactly.
The first suicide incident, everybody started committing suicide. Copycat effect.
Copycat effect, yeah. So truly, we are still going to say this. But what I would want everybody to understand that is that a lot of us are traumatized. And what we should actually be preaching at this point in time is recovery, hope, and healing. Because some people's destiny automatically change because they are still standing on that foundation of trauma and they haven't, yet gotten help. So if people join this and truly they aren't affected and they are just, let me just say, because I have influence, I have a lot of followers, or I can also be, I want more likes and more whatever. Psychologically, those that are affected are the ones that truly we need to look out for. And we can't look out for those people. The first group of people are their friends and families. So we always say, if somebody has ever been raped or has gone through this, no matter the number of years, and is coming out and telling you, can you remember that time, this. Please, people shouldn't trivialize their issues. People should really listen to them to understand their point of where they are coming from, rather than like, oh, why is it now that you're not coming out to come out?
That brings me to the question, because that's a lot. That's what a lot of people have said.
Yeah.
Is it possible to remember an incident of rape after over 20 years, 30 years?
Yeah. You can only forget unless you have a medical condition called amnesia.
Can you remember in details?
You can remember in
graphical, clear, crystal clear, HD
and it depends on exactly even what happened to you. No matter how you... See, you can't forget certain things that have happened to you. You just decide to suppress them into your subconscious. You remember, except you want to tell. So we have like two types of dream: latent and manifest dream. The latent dream is a real dream. The manifest is what you remember to say. When you are traumatized and you suppress it, it will take a whole lot of time for it to come out. Truly, people will know exactly what has happened to them, but some people will now want to tell you what they want to tell you. They may not tell you some things that you will say, oh, really? Or things that they may think you will not believe them. So the issue of people not saying exactly what has happened, or maybe they are making up stories, we shouldn't look at it that way. I sit down on my table as a therapist and I listen to people that are currently going through anxiety, depression, abusing different drugs, have been suicidal, or some have even completed suicide, and I listen to their story. A lot of times you hear that issue of trauma, and when you deep down, some form of rape, molestation has happened to that person as a child, and now manifesting as in psychological disorders as an adult.
So earlier you responded to Rufai talking about the psychology of the victim. Let's talk about the predator, the perpetrators. What is the thinking of a person that is going to perpetrate rape, and what gives him or she the power, to control the victim?
So in the mind of a rapist, right, some of them do it because it has happened to them. And their only way of finding joy for people. We also have a group of people that have personality disorders, that are vindictive, people that are narcissistic, people that want, if they come around here, everything must be in their control.
They're next to God.
Yes, they are next to God. Then, yes, antisocial personality disorder. So there are people that way that derive joy in taking, things away from that individual. And the thing about those in the mind of a perpetrator is that they know there are sex workers. They know there are people out there that they can actually pay money to and get sex, and everybody moves on. No. What gives them joy is that they are taking something away from that victim that victim doesn't have power over. They derive joy. That feeling of gratification comes from that. So those are the kind of people, and of course, some people have done the influence of alcohol and other substances. So you see, in the mind of a rapist, there are several other things. Sometimes, some of them are already mentally unstable. And maybe the manic phase of bipolar affective disorder, there's that, one of the symptoms is, increase in libido. So they can do anything, anywhere. They are very sexually active. So you see, from the fact that they have issues as children, and then they are now affecting, using it against other people. They have personality issues. They have substance abuse issues, and of course, they have mental health-related challenges.
So it's safe to say that it's a mental issue, is it?
For predators, not all of them.
Okay.
Not all of them, because some of them, it's not that they are mentally unstable.
So some of them do realize what they have done.
They do realize, they are happy, they find joy in it. Up until you evaluate an individual and assess, you may never know if that person is actually having a mental illness.
Let's talk about healing. And because this is really very important.
Truly.
Very important. The person being raped. Can you give us steps on how they can quickly move to the point of acceptance? Because it is a difficult and a tall order.
It is.
How they can quickly move to the point of acceptance and the healing can start. And I'm saying this, Dr. Maymunah, because there are tons of people watching us on television right about now that they don't have the money to come see a psychologist like you.
You're right.
But deep inside of their hearts, they want to start the process of renewal and healing.
Yeah.
They are broken, they are shattered.
Yeah.
What can they do?
First thing I want to tell anybody that's a victim out there is to understand that it wasn't their fault. What happened to them happened to them. They need to begin to forgive themselves. They have to take away that guilt that, oh, it's because of what I wore, or it's because of the place I went to, or it's because I'm too familiar with this individual. No, it could have happened to anyone. So that first thing, forgive yourself. Take away the guilt. And then the next thing is for them to find that trusted family member, friend, colleague to open up. It takes a whole lot of courage for a victim to come out to say, this is what has happened to me. And it's so sad that that support system is not really there. So find that trusted person to express yourself to and voice out and say, because your healing begins from there. Because at the end of the day, if you are still in shock and in denial, you don't go through other stages, that acceptance wouldn't be there. Of course, we will not take religion away from this. We are quite a country where we have a lot of, we have very religious and all that. We will not take religion away from it, because at this point in time, some people may even change churches or even change mosques. Because if they don't find that support from their religious group, they will. So you have to understand that these things take time. Your spiritual awareness also matters in your healing. So forgive yourself, take away the guilt, look for a trusted person to talk to, find some spiritual healing and spiritual awareness. And of course, as much as it is, some physiological changes might have started occurring in this individual. Maybe sleep disturbances, eating disturbances, mood changes. If it's beyond what a trusted family member or friend can help you deal with, then find a therapist too. They may not lead to medication, because it depends on the time you decided to speak out. If you speak out immediately, you may not go through what we can say in the next 3 to 6 months, you are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. But if you have already reached that point, please find a therapist. Luckily, we are beginning to see people that are working. Group therapy for people that have been raped. You have a walk-in free counseling session that people can come in. Like for us on a Friday, 3 to 5 p.m., we have people walk-in free counseling. Just come. Don't pay anything. Just come. Somebody will listen to you. Because it's good when you are in that space, safe space, where you aren't being judged, where you wouldn't be criticized, and nobody is being apostolic.
Dr. Kadiri, we'll come back to talk about telltale signs of rapists and even victims. We'll be right back after this break. Please stay with us. Glad to have you back here on the Morning Show on the Rise News. We still have with us in the studio, Dr. Maymunah Kadiri, who is a neuropsychiatrist and doctor of clinical psychology. Just to get a perspective, a psychological perspective to rape. Do we have telltale signs of potential rapists? When do you say the boundary has been crossed? Because from this celebrated story now that we have, you hear people say, just looking at the accused, he has that potential to just smooth talk people, he's nice. Are there telltale signs of a potential rapist?
No. Truly, any child being born today, nobody is going to say, looks like a rapist. Let's beware. This child will talk. No. So when people say, the way he dresses, the way he talks to girls, is very charismatic, is this? No, that is not it. What can easily make people to say, okay, this person could be, or, this is why he did what he did, is you look at what we call triggers, risk factors, things in that person's background, especially like childhood experiences. Was this person raped as a child? Was this person molested as a child? Did this person come out from a dysfunctional family setting? Did this person come out from a home where there was domestic violence? Did this person come out from a home where there was divorce or death of one or both parents? Is this person, was this person a bully as a child growing up? Those are the things you can look out for. Not necessarily written on anybody's face that this person looks like a rapist. The most quiet of people have been raping. They are devilish, they are evil, they are murderers. It's not written on anybody's face that this person looks like a rapist. No, that is a myth. The truth is that there are rapists walking around everywhere, and there are people we know, they are predators, they are people in-house, fathers, brothers, cousins, uncles, teachers, drivers, cooks. We've had cases where a particular young girl, the mother's brother, the father's brother, the cook, and the driver, every day, they've had 2 abortions for her. We had to pull her out of school to get her more psychologically minded, and before we reintegrated her into school. So the truth is that there's no physical sign to show that this person looks like a potential rapist. No.
So we're talking about the psychology of victims and offenders. A story is just breaking right about now. About somebody having to step down. At least from the pulpit first while he gets counseling. As the investigations go on. The pastor of COZA. I'm just seeing the story, but more confirmations will be made very soon. What will be going through the mind of somebody like this, that what he's built over the years, he has to step down from it because of allegations like this? What will go through the mind of the person? Because we fail to realize that the so-called person we tag the rapist to needs help.
You are very, in fact, Rufai, you are very right. He doesn't only need help. If he's married, the spouse needs help. The children need help. People around him need help. Because if you've been in denial for so long, because this is an allegation. Yes. And it's not like, oh, yes, it has been nailed that he has done it. But of course, there are a lot of people that have come out and testified, and they're like, oh, we know him from day one. This is how he is. A whole lot is going through his mind. He has built an empire, in quotes. So what will happen to this empire? Is this, as the end come, is this going to be the end of me and my organization?
He could kill himself. It could be suicidal.
Exactly. So we also have to be careful. Let's go back to August 2000, where the face of NTA, Tokumbo Ajayi, do people remember that story? There was armed robbery attack in her house. She reported it, but she didn't report rape. Until they caught the armed robbers, and I said, we did not only rob, we also raped someone. Shortly after then, she traveled to England, and the news was that she died in her sleep. But of course, the people brought up more news, and they said, no, yes, that she died, she killed herself. So we also have to look out for it, because now we are seeing cases of suicide every now and then. This is so sensitive that we have to look at not just the victim, him involved, his family members. If truly everything that has been said, there's some level of truth in it, it doesn't only need just counseling, it needs therapy, it needs a full evaluation. Because if it's something that is a personality issue, personality disorder, they're difficult to manage, but of course we know the angle is coming from. If it's something that has to do with maybe under the influence of alcohol or that, or even maybe from childhood, was he also molested or abused, so that he can find closure. Forgive himself, free himself from that guilt, and begin to start to heal.
Can you heal totally? Can you take, for instance, the lady that came out, Busola? Is there anything like perfect healing? Is it possible for Busola or any other person that has faced rape?
There's perfection in imperfection. What do I mean by that? Healing is individualized. So you may find healing at a particular, if you find closure that, oh, this victim or this person that raped me, I found justice rather. And say, yes, now I can go to bed, now I'm happy. Why some people is the support they get that will help them in that their closure and healing. So perfection and imperfection is individualized. When you say perfect healing, it has some level of
going back to where you were before the infraction happened.
How possible is that? Because truly, 3 or 4 years will have gone through some level of trauma at one point or the other in our lives. Are we back to that default God-made mode? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. So there's never really a perfect kind of healing, but there's perfection in imperfection.
So let's talk about the acceptance of the society and the role the society plays, and how important that is to victims of rape. Are we acceptable? Just looking at this case again, and recall the first allegation, major allegation against this pastor was in 2013. It wasn't taken seriously. This, a lot of people have said, is generating clouds because of who she is. And, people, the Me Too movement, Time's Up globally, all of those is having an impact. But what is the Nigerian society like when it comes to rape? And how dangerous is it if we do not act?
It's dangerous. Why am I saying it's dangerous? Because we are still at that point where we point fingers, we do not, we trivialize people's challenges, we are not accept. So that's why, that's the bottom line why people don't come out, because when they come out, you are treated like an outcast, like dirt, like filth, like you're useless, you can never be good. They will never know that your name is Lagbaja anymore. They will say, that girl that was raped. You are nameless. So we haven't gotten to that point where we accept people and know that they are going through a lot of trauma and help them to heal. You can still say this case. How will a married woman in her 30s with 3 children come out to eventually admit after how many years and say, look, I was raped? The lives of her children are in, the internet never forgets. So if she comes out and she's not saying the truth, the children will definitely grow up to know that this was it. So my mom put us in all this mess. So the society needs to understand that when people come out, it's out of courage, it's out of strength. And we should see that as strength rather than castigate, stigmatize, discriminate, criticize, judge them. It shouldn't be that way, because the healing is not only individualized, it also boils down to the society. Let the person also walk freely without people pointing fingers at them. They have a whole lot of strength when they come out to speak.
Rather than punishment, is there a path for reconciliation between the offender
and the victim? Because I've heard of cases, where, this is in case of murder, where somebody killed another man's child, and the man says, I just want to look at the person that killed my child in the eye, and I just want to hear that he's truly sorry. And I've had cases like that they drop the case in the end, and they say, you know what? I found my healing because he accepted and we reconcile. Is it possible in a rape case? Is it possible that the alleged pastor and this woman could sit down at one table and there's an apology, and there's true healing, and there's reconciliation? Truly, this can happen. She finds closure. She knows that, oh, yes, all what I was saying or all what I said is not all lies. Now this person has come out to accept that, yes, he did this to me. So it now boils down to that individual. Will she find healing and closure in that? Will she accept? So this way, even in law too, they are moving into alternate dispute resolution, mediation, and arbitration, where you don't have to go to court and stay for 20 years and all. So I really hope rape cases can also take that. So I hope it's already happening. I'm not a lawyer, so that people can also find that closure within the confines of a smaller room where they can say, look, let us even, if this person accepts that he actually raped you and if you forgive, would that be fine? There can be cases like that.
And maybe if possible, you negotiate a recompense.
Yes, exactly. And everybody goes away healed.
Because we had a lawyer, and we're talking trial time, and I know the trial time can go donkey
20 years. I used to, because you have to provide evidence, very concrete evidence.
Among those with the Me Too movement and times of the Wonder Resolution. But thank you so much, Dr. Maymunah Kadiri, for coming on the show this morning. That brings us to the end of the show today. I am Adesoa Omorwan.
And I'm Rafai Husseini.
Goodbye.